Hi again. Just want to share another update on the procedural planets that I'm working on for Unity, and quite frequent between the updates now, but I'm making good progress, so I want to share some of the stuff I've been working on again. And so I've got a planet spawned here. It's highlighted in the hierarchy, and the inspector shows the parameters for this particular planet. And some of the new stuff that I've implemented now is that you can select a planet type, and I've created a few of them. Basically, these are like templates, so the terrestrial planet will have parameters that are set very much for terrestrial planet. And if I click on that one, it'll force this particular planet into render as a terrestrial planet instead. So it'll select a blue atmosphere, blue water or liquid, and then the biome textures that are appropriate for a normal planet, a terrestrial Earth-like planet. And if you look at when I select that particular config, basically this is like a template, and as you can see, these are min-max sliders. So basically it sets a lower limit and a higher limit of whatever the random values will be. Basically, if you spawn planets with totally random values, 99% of the planets look quite crappy because you'll get over vibrant colors, or you'll get really weird texture combinations, and they look really bad. But with these templates, you can start creating as many as you want that will set a certain range of parameters that will look good. So for the terrestrial one here, as I mentioned, you can set the lower limit and the high limit, and a quick run through what would work for a terrestrial planet is that any type of composition will work, because that's how the continents are assembled, so that doesn't really matter. And liquid level around 50%, blue water, and liquid opacity is set to high. You don't want to have it too transparent. Some polar caps, ice color is white, atmosphere is blue with slight deviations in the hue, saturation, and brightness. Larger atmosphere, or size isn't that big, but the external density and the internal density is higher. And clouds will spawn, always have some sort of opacity, but then the different layers will have full range, but the coverage will have make sure that there are usually some clouds at least. No lava for this one, so that min-max slider is set to 0. And for biomes, I've set everything for now except dust and iron oxide, and I will add a lot more of these texture biomes as well. But well, at least I say so. Hopefully I will as well, but shouldn't be a problem. So for the two biomes that will spawn, no dust or no iron oxide for this one. If I go back to the planet, and let's say I've got this one still selected, the terrestrial. So when I click random here, it'll create a random seed, and it'll force this planet to be a terrestrial style planet. I've added this one as well. Oh, this is very high specular level, that's why this one looks a bit odd, but random said that that's the way this one will look. Let's do another one. Random planet, random terrestrial planet. And this indicates how long it's processing. Sometimes you think the planet is finished and you go, oh, that's weird, but then the indicators will show when it's actually finally finished then. So let's do a few more random terrestrial ones. As you can see, most values are in the range of what an Earth-like planet would be. There's some differences in saturation and brightness and type of biomes then. Let's do some random ones here. This one had a lot of ice on it. Here's an interesting looking one, I think. Let's have a look So, and then when you find a planet that you think, oh, this one looks alright, then you can click on this one, variant, as well, and that will make slight changes to the planet. So this is the base seed, and then you have the slight variations here. You can have thousands of different slight, the continents will be different, the layout will be different, the cloud coverage will be different, for example, but some of the parameters will stay the same. And then the population will change as well, but again, you can override all of this if you want to as well. So if you wanted this one but no population on it at all, then you just override that. So, and or if you wanted this one but with slightly more or less water, then you would be able to override, say, less water or more water. So there we go. So back to the way this works. So I've forced this into terrestrial planet, but this seed might be something else. So if I take away the override, this particular planet would have actually been a Mars-like planet. So it regenerates this as a Mars planet. So let's spawn some random ones and you'll be able to see. The next one I spawned here, this particular seed turned out to be a Mars-like planet as well. So it basically just randomly selects this template here, or PlanetType Mars-like, and then it spawns the parameters within the ranges. So let's do another random one. Here's an alien one, and those will go a little bit more crazy with the textures. So if I force this to be an alien, and then let's have a look at a few different alien planets. So it'll go a bit crazy on the color, and it'll use this alienation slider a lot, which is basically just shifting the hue of the color range to make it more foreign, hostile / alien looking like. So some of the aliens will look not so good. It's just the nature of the eye isn't really used to seeing weird combinations like that either. So plus it just looks crappy. But here we go. Let's have a look what this is. Okay, so here we go. Some of these type of planets, if you wanted to make maybe the atmosphere turned out a bit too sharp or something like that, you can lower that. Okay, let's have a look. And again, I was overriding this one, so if I didn't override the planet type, this one would have been a Mars-like planet as well. Random tells me it is. And let's do another random one. This one is a terrestrial, but with slight, it'll shift the alien slider. Otherwise, it should be, this template will create an Earth-like planet, but shift the hues of the color. So you could animate this one back to looking more like a normal planet then. Or a terrestrial planet. Let's have a look. And then we have, now we picked this particular seed is a molten planet, so it'll have some lava on it. Oh, it turned out to be a dark one as well. And let's have a few. If I do the variations, if I like this one, for example, I click on random variant here, and it'll give me a slight difference on all of these. Let's have a look. Here's one with some more cracks in it. And also, you could just store away. This one has no overrides on it, so this particular planet with that seed and that variant number will be the same then. So if you were to spawn this one and say, hey, I want to spawn a planet with this seed and this variant, this is the planet that's going to get spawned then. And you can also export the planet. I've created a tool here so you can export it to clipboard. And basically that just takes all the parameters and encodes it into a base 64 string. So if I copy that into the clipboard again, let's say I created another random planet here. Here's a solid, very molten one, but it didn't turn out to be that molten. But it's got the potential to be a lot more molten. And maybe a variant of that one would have some more cracks in it. Yep. There we go. And also, let's say I wanted to override this one to say I want this one to be a terrestrial planet instead, then this is what a terrestrial version of that planet would look like. And so let's say, remember I copied this one into my clipboard. That contains all the parameters. So if I import this one now, it'll bring it back to that planet that I had, the solid molten one, with these particular parameters then. There we go. And let's take away that override. And you can do the same for these. So the templates that I've created here, then I'll export. You can export these to clipboard as well. So this one, it's basically when you create this one, and if you reset the scene or something like that, you won't have any of these. So either you can save it as a prefab, that will probably be the most common one, but I've created a tool anyway to export and import settings like that. And if you wanted to create, I'll make a duplicate copy of that one, or a duplicate, and then I'll show demo. So if I wanted to make a template of a PlanetType that basically, what should we do? We can run through a few different ones. We want the composition ones should be the cracked or the fractured or fused type. You won't see any changes here now because I'm basically just changing the template, and I want this to have small continents on it. I want it to have not so much water, and I want the water to be quite dark. I want it to have some shallow distance, and some opacity maybe in the water as well. Polar caps is fine. Blue skies, maybe some different, more variations to the type of atmosphere. Different sizes maybe as well. Clouds, let's say we want to have, again, a lot of clouds maybe. But we want the clouds to be, for some reason we want them to be black. I have no idea what that's going to look like. We don't want any lava on this one, and we want the biomes to be, let's force it into desert, and let's force it to be either savanna or tundra for the second one. And so I've created a template now. I have no idea what this one will look like, but when I go to planet now, so I've selected this planet again, and then let's force it into that new template demo. So now it's using the same seed and the same variant, but it's forcing it to apply it within the ranges. As you can see, I allowed some more shallow water and transparency to the water, so it creates just like a small surface layer of water on this one. And then it picked between the biomes. Savanna, this one turned out to be, and this one I forced to be desert. And again, if I wanted some variants of these, I can create some variants. I think it looks a bit weird when the atmosphere is that big, so you probably want to tweak it down. From a distance it might look alright, but let's do another variation. There you go. And then let's force that atmosphere down a bit in size. Bring in the internal atmosphere a bit, maybe. And if you were to pull the alienation slider, this is, again, it changes the hue of the color into, it doesn't affect the atmosphere, but it affects the surface layers then. And there was one more thing I was thinking about here, and or actually what happened with the clouds. I made them black, yeah, that's right. And they're moving quite fast. Yeah. And then we can bring up the quality as well. So this is forcing the textures to be at the highest quality. They take longer time to generate, especially if you spawn a full planet. But the procedural textures work quite well in the way that they'll be able to process in the background. So you should be able to, if you've played a game like EVE Online or anything like that, if you wonder why you always have to wait for the flight period to transition when you jump between the gate and the planets, it's because they generate the planets during that time. So basically you could just make sure that you render or create the textures in the background when you're doing something. So by the time you arrive to the planet, it would have spawned. It doesn't take that long, so it should be alright to do that in the game. And then so if I like this one, I'll export that one to clipboard as well, so I can keep that one for future use if I wanted to. And if I force this one to be the terrestrial, because I was curious what that one would look like. As you can see, it takes a little bit longer now to generate the textures for the highest resolution. And you might think it's finished sometimes, but it could be the night lights textures, or that is tweaking the cloud textures, that takes some of the time as well. And there we go, finished. Let's switch this one. And if I were to go to 512, by 512 it'll be a lot faster to create. And for most cases, I think you'll be able to get away with using that resolution, especially if you don't get too close to the planets. Let's bring back the template that we had here. Obviously it's lower resolution, but if you were to be a bit further away, let's take this camera and move it away. Resize that background. This is just a placeholder background for now. So if we go back here now. So from this distance, for example, the 512 textures would be fine, probably to use. And let's see what the 256 would look like. Yeah, that's too low for this distance. But again, then if you wanted to just render small planets for like a user interface or something like that, the lower resolutions would probably work. And these spawn really fast, so at that size. And I think the 512s as well. Let's look at the spawn time for that. And then let's do full random planets with override all the randomness. So it's just going through a lot of different. So here's a dust planet, similar to what I guess the moon is, or something like that. Here's a terrestrial alien. Here's another dust planet. Oh, here's from the demo template. And another demo template one. Let's bring this up again. Move the camera back. Game scene, there we go. Sometimes I wonder sometimes if I put my birth date in, what would that planet be? 75, 06, 11th of June, 42 years old. And let's see what that planet looks like. I've been overriding some parameters here, let's see. Oh, my birth date is a solid demo template planet with an interesting look. Let's check out today's dates as well. 2017 06 16. So the planet of the day is a terrestrial planet looking like this. And then let's put the time in here as well. 2214 is the variation. So as you can see, you'll be able to spawn with the planet seeds. You'll be able to spawn a universe full of planets with a distribution of planets that you need. And you could make terrestrial planets rare, for example, and alien planets common. And then I'll also add I have to do the shader now and some of the code for the gas planets, the gas giants. And I also have to do enable the rings, planetary rings. And I'm not sure how to do. I need them to cast the shadow onto the planet, so that's a bit of research that I have to do as well. But I hope this gave a little indication of how it's going to work when, and you'll be able to spawn this, I should mention as well. So you'll be able to spawn planets from code. With one line of code, you should be able to spawn any random seed and a variant, and you can also add overrides if you want. So either you just bring everything totally random and go for it, or if you need a range of 10-20 planets that you want to make sure that look the part, then you can you can pre-check out which seeds and overrides that you want and force that to be spawned if you wanted to. And let's check some more. If don't think it spawned too many of the dark planets, so let's have a look at a few of the dark ones. And then some of the more molten ones as well I can pick here. Let's have a look. That didn't turn out to be that dark after all. Very molten. I'll probably do a different shader altogether for full lava planets. This one does cracks all right, but if I were to make basically like a sun or a star or a totally molten planet, so I'll write a different shader I think from that altogether. I don't want to waste a lot of the stuff that it's used to processing clouds and liquid coverage, so I'll make a one that probably looks the part for just the molten planets. Some variations of that. You don't have to wait for the render either. You can just go through a lot of different ones and wait. It won't really halt or anything like that. And again, I've been running this in play mode now, so if I stop now, it'll let's do it. Let's have a look. It'll restore back to I think where I was just before I started. Yeah. And if you can make the same type of changes here. So if I spawn a random one, I just ended up doing the demo in play mode. So, but it works the same if you want to work with the planets and spawn them in the editor here. So, alright then, yeah, thanks for watching again, and I'll keep working away on these planets, and hopefully I should be able to get them out to the asset store, and so I can continue with the games I want to make as well. So I'll leave you with that, and take care. I'll see you. Bye.